Hello, this is George Matthew Linkert IV in Mound, Minnesota. Today is December 25th, Christmas Day, 2025. I am just wanting to create this post because I don't really want to type it up, which would mean I'd have to edit it, proofread it, probably have my wife look it over. We kind of just go on, and I'm not interested spending any more time on this than I have. So this post is basically a follow up to the December 20th post I put on Facebook. I shared some pictures because my wife and I went to the march to stand up for our neighbors in our community in protest of the ICE and the immigration crackdown happening in Minnesota presently, particularly on those in our Somali and Hispanic communities here. And I shared this post, and realized that evening that there was a lot of attention coming to this post, which has never happened to me. And by the next day, I had saw that this is going way beyond any of my typical posts, beyond my family and friends. I did put a note out to them saying, "Hey, this is happening. Please be aware of it. Please don't engage." And I really appreciate those people who have sent me notes or showed me some encouragement, which I appreciate. So about this post, and this is kind of coming up to a really interesting point because at the beginning of this year, I was given the word integrity at a function at my church, and integrity being a gift from God. And I really had wrestled with it when I got it. I always felt like I am a guy who has stayed true to myself and stayed true to standing up for what I believe in. And I guess I kind of have taken it just to embolden me to be strong in that way. And that means showing up when asked for by those who are um, in trouble, as I think any of us, I hope that any of us would. If I was in trouble, I would hope that I would have friends and family who would step up and say, "Hey, what can I do for you?" And so um, I have for a long time made my post on Facebook public so that pretty much anybody could see them and comment them and share them. Excuse me. And so I always knew this was a possibility, uh, and I've also known that and I've seen and heard people who have livings doing this sort of work, creating content creating, ignore the comments and all that because it just will wear you down. And I, this being my first time, I guess I had a hard time doing that. And I, going to respond to some of them, I guess, but I want to go back to the integrity thing. And I really think it's important for all of us to stand up for our neighbors and those that our colleagues and those that are simply trying to get by. The politics of these days is just downright scary, and I am just really I hear and I listen to all the sides of these debates, and I take people for their word about their concerns. But I feel like I look at the whole picture, and I think that their reactions to these is a little beyond the pale. And in fact, just downright not Christian, like when talking about people, as President Trump referred to them as garbage, amongst other terrible things. And the whole thing just makes me think back to the civil rights movement in the 60s. And people we look back at that time now and admire Martin Luther King and those that stood with him to improve um, the quality of life for a significant part of our society. And we should be doing this for these people who have lived here, many have lived here a long, long time and are just trying to support their family, trying to get by as all of us are. And so it goes to, I guess, back to integrity. Um, and so making the world a better place. I'm sorry, I got some notes here. I'm trying not to look at it too much here. And and I want to be in that following my integrity, doing more than just voting or liking on Facebook, but actually getting out there. And so, I made this. So I just posted a couple pictures. Really didn't think too much of it when I posted them. I only took a couple there, and I had over 1,000 comments on this post and almost over 900 reactions. Far many, many, many negative, many, many negative, and that's okay. I was really leery. I was really kind of worried that there'd be people out there looking to threaten or do harm, and I didn't see many of that or much of that at all. I did delete a couple, and I hit a couple that I just thought, this is dumb. But most of them are still up there. I'm sure if you want to go back and look, you certainly could. There's a few I'm going to share with you. I'm going to read to you. I used to have the technology that I could share my screen and all that business, but I don't have that service anymore, and I'm just don't have the inclination to figure out how to make that work this quickly because I don't want to spend any more time on this. So there was a few comments here that I thought I'm just going to point out or just share. So one is, or there were several that said things like, "Thank you, officers," or "Thank you, ICE." That's fine. I mean, if you're really that big a believer in this, and you want to thank the troops on my post, okay. I'm not really. I those didn't bother me, but I just thought I'd point out there was some comments like that. There's several people just posting memes of like Donald. The one I have here in front of me, Donald Trump holding this big glass of a beverage, and it says, "Enjoy an ice cold glass of deportation." With Donald Trump holding this, and there's other ones where he's kind of being glib and, "Oh, this is Donald's efforts, and I support President Trump." And by the way, all these, I feel like I didn't look at all these commentaries profiles, but I did look at the ones I'm sharing. Or I'm telling you, they all appeared to be genuine people. I don't think these are bots, or they could have been, but it'd been a lot of work to do that. But I think these were all legit. But the memes were out there in force in one way or another. Some were kind of disturbing. There was several people who suggested I was not working or I should need to find a job. And that was kind of weird. I work really hard. I'm sure a lot of people that was at that parade do. And I was just taking a Saturday afternoon. It felt like a minimalist thing I could have done to be out there. So I know a lot of people, you see that, oh, these people need to find jobs or find work. And, people that do go out, protest, or do these things, many of them do have jobs, and they do this. This is their passion. There's several, and I'm going to read these words. So some of these I'm swearing, but I'm just going to read them. And again, I think these are people that are just coming to people who I have no idea who they are. There's a couple of these were Minnesotans. Some of them were not, or at least appeared to not be. Scott Miller said, "They're not leaving, so get the fuck over yourselves. If you didn't spend all your time hiding illegal, ICE wouldn't have to be here. Get your heads out of your asses, libtards." Another one, Monty Grininger. You people caused this. You screwed their lives over. You brought them here against federal law, and now you're blaming Trump? You lied again to people that believed you. This doesn't make sense. People are coming to my post to say these things. Sad thing is, these clowns are for higher rent, higher health care, and more taxes. Should sit them down and explain how ignorant they look. Does not make any sense. Not moving forward a conversation at all. I don't, it's like, part of me feels like, is that these people were they directed to come to my site and say something? It was very weird. There was several that just said something like along this line. This is Rachel Rogers. How about stand up for following the law? And it's kind of interesting to hear conservatives suggest they follow the law. We have a president who is just not interested in following any law unless it suits him. And then they're suggesting these guys weren't following the law, or the fact that the law is changing for some of them. Their papers, their processes are being being disrupted. It's very hard to follow. I'm gonna sneeze. So that was really, like I said, I was a little worried there'd be some threats, and there was a few that I left up there that were kind of threatening in a way. Timothy Mayer said, "Hey, ICE, deport this moron while you're at it." And Ralph Sutton said, "Break out the water cannons." Really? You think they should have water cannoned us? It is really interesting to go to these events like this, and you're kind of like, God, I hope nobody's going to packing a gun around here or is going to get mad and start shooting, because you see that on the news and you think, oh, this could happen. And then here we have some, I presume, conservatives, kind of talking in this threatening way, and it's just very disheartening, and I can see why more people wouldn't put themselves in danger, just to march, in support of a community. Really just hard. I'm okay. I'm gonna make this video. I'm gonna post it and share it and be done with this. I'm gonna move on. I'm sure many of these people are not going to come back and look at it. I kind of I'm leaving it up just because I know I have a lot of conservative friends who may have some, maybe looking at that or some of these, maybe feeling like maybe there might be some bit of truth or some, these people are mad and kind of letting that slide. And, I can, as much as I'm sure they would never say these things, anybody whom I'm connected to would not say these things to me directly. But I think that we think the worst of each other sometimes, and we got to realize we need to get over that. We need to be more about taking us for our face value. I think I said earlier that I'm trying to be straightforward and being honest with how I feel, and I don't have an agenda except just to improve the lives of people, and to see people who are just wanting to get by, just wanting to work, do jobs that really a lot of traditional Americans don't really want to do. I work with them in healthcare. They are picking our food, their crops and our food. They're building our houses. They're They're cleaning our bathrooms. They're doing work just as previous immigrant communities have done. You think about how the Chinese were treated in America, how the Italians and the Irish, and why do we think that these people who are coming in to the United States are any different than them? They're not. So again, I'm done. I'm done with this. I frankly, I've known that there's a possibility of this sort of reaction happening to a post of mine, and I'm glad it was this one. And it wasn't some, when you make things public, that means that anybody can see it. And somebody could take a picture of one of my kids and make it a terrible, it could go in a really bad way, or me and my wife. They could find an old picture of me that, would be not, I mean, there's lots of old pictures of me that would not be terribly flattering. And that's fine if that's the way that goes. But I'm glad it was this one because, frankly, I think this puts me in a good light. I think that standing up and speaking out on behalf of those and giving voice to those who are being persecuted, especially in this season of Christmas, when we are all being celebrating our family and friends. Are you support? I hope people are questioning themselves about what they really believe. Treat your neighbors as you would yourself. Love one another. They're simple messages. We've all heard them. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to say there was one of the other running topics in the commentary was about, what about these people just stole how many billions of dollars from you? And this is going to the fraud case that's going in Minnesota right now, which is being investigated, being prosecuted by federal and state attorneys. So am I upset people defrauded the government? Yes, of course. And that sort of thing happens all the time. And no, and that's a terrible thing. It doesn't happen all the time. You're going to have bad actors. I have a daughter with a disability, and the hurdles that we have to go through to get her services is ridiculous. And she's lucky that she has college educated people trying to maneuver this system, because a lot of people there with disabilities don't have somebody advocating for themselves, so they don't get the money they deserve. They don't get the services they deserve. They end up being not treated properly. They don't get the medications. They don't get they get stuck at home. Their health gets worse. They get isolated, socially isolated, and there's so many ways that to stop fraud and abuse, and it doesn't happen all the time. It happens. Okay, but if you want to look for corruption, look at the federal government, look at President Trump and what he's doing right now, because it is just beyond the pale. It's happening, and I'm glad that Ellison and Walz are doing what they need to do to take care of Minnesota business and finances. But I'm also glad that they were out there trying to help communities in need. And it is terrible that some people took advantage of the system and they made off with a lot of money, but they're paying for it. And that will continue to be investigated. But I'm not That's fallen on deaf ears. And this is already 20 minutes long. So I'm going to end it here. I would like to be done and move on after this week to other things. To continuing to stand up for my community and to stand up for what I believe in, staying true to myself, as I hope everybody does. So that is that. Take care. Know that you are loved. Thanks for listening.